This is a podcast from Dublin's best music mix, Dublins98. Check out Dublins98.ie.
And now the Church of Scientology is a source of huge curiosity for most of us, myself certainly, not least because of the involvement of Tom Cruise and the odd behaviour. His dedication to Scientology seems to have provoked, it's a very private religion though, one which places the utmost importance on secrecy amongst its followers, which makes our next guest, all the more interesting. He's John Duignan, author of The Complex, a book about his 22 years with an eventual escape from the Church of Scientology. John, it's a pleasure to have you with us. John, how are you?
My pleasure. I am now very well. Thank you very much.
Good. Now you say. But now there was a time when you weren't.
My freedom and liberty is absolutely fantastic. Believe you me, it was a long journey to get to where I am now. But it is... if you have been in something like that, you never have freedom. You're always being watched.
Well, it sounded incredibly insular and scary in many ways. But you got into this in a way which was not unfamiliar to me, because I was walking down Talbot Street about 5 or 6, maybe a little bit longer ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and a fella came up to me and asked me to do a personality test, and I was actually interested, but I didn't actually have the time. And it turns out this was Church of Scientology prompted. And this is how you got into this, John.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the main recruitment tool of Scientology is a personality test across the world, whether you're in Taiwan or whether you're in Los Angeles or New York or Dublin. It's a personality test. That's the hook. And of course it is, because you're interested in yourself. Everybody's interested in themselves.
Of course.
If you wake up with a hangover, you're curious about yourself, you know?
John, you reckon that it was your childhood and things that happened to you in your early childhood that made you vulnerable, and that Scientologists that's what they're looking for to hook somebody in.
Look, 100%. I mean, I know for a fact, because later on I was administering these tests and I was designing these tests later on, and the instructions we have on those tests is that if the person scores high, you reject them straight away. You reject them out of hand. You do not want a high-scoring person, because you can't do anything with them.
So if they're normal, well-adjusted, you don't want them?
You don't want them, yeah, because they're critical abilities. The most important thing you got is your ability to think critically, to be able to, if you like, to be able to filter out bullshit from reality, from truth, you know?
Yeah.
And that's... But someone in my situation, I mean, I lost my parents when I was 10 years old, and there was 6 of us kids left orphaned, if you like, just sort of at the complete whims of the world. It's a little bit troublesome for a child, and it sets them up for a lot of difficulties. It really does. And that absolutely wide open. It left me very, very wide open.
And very vulnerable.
Always looking, you see, always searching for that parental home,
somewhere to belong.
It's a metaphysical thing, but it's a belongingness, it's a safety, it's a security, and it's not defined. It's just, you know, intuitively what it's supposed to feel like. And so these Scientology, I mean, God Almighty, they definitely offered this cotton woolly-ness, you know, which is, by the way, why Tom Cruise loves it so much. Because,
really?
Well, if you look at it. Look, even at his state, right, you're only as good as the reputation of your last film.
Yeah.
You do a bad film or you do a stupid series of interviews like he did, right? His career's wrecked. That's typical. So you're always insecure. It's the most in the movie. That's why Kirstie Alley's involved in Scientology. That's why Cruise is. That's why Nancy Cartwright. That's why
it makes so much sense, John. Sure. They definitely played in your insecurities as well, because when they actually saw the report and saw that perhaps you did have, you know, some problems as a child, which then developed and manifested into later on when you were a child, they told you were on the route to suicide and that you needed to be a Scientologist immediately.
It was my only hope. It was my only hope, literally. And there's a very interesting. I mean, I put in the book. In the last chapter of the book, I'm talking about other experiences of other people. I go outside of my own experiences beyond it. And there was a daughter of a Norwegian politician, very recently, this was last summertime, who, after doing a personality analysis, exactly like you do right down there on Abbey Street in Dublin, exactly the same way, she was given the test, she was given what's called the evaluation, which is the reading of the test, if you like.
Yeah.
And it's designed to tell you that you are a mess. And she went home, up to her flat, and she jumped out the window. And that's absolutely, and when I read that, I said, look, this absolutely makes sense to me, because you're supposed to cave the person in. That's the instructions we get.
How do they get you in, John? So, okay, so you do this test, they give you this evaluation.
Yeah.
physically, where do you go? Where do you go to stay? Do you live with them? Because I don't know how the whole thing works.
Sure. Well, look, first of all, it's very straightforward. It's like anything. Like down in Dublin, you'll go there, you'll do a test, you'll be invited up there, you'll say, look, buy the book and do a little course. So you do a little course on their little grotty premises there in Abbey Street, right? Or in my case, it was in Stuttgart in Germany.
Right.
Much nicer premises, but the same idea. And you're at that point, you're starting out. I was working, I was doing a bit of this, working in Germany, and I'd pop in there in the evenings and do a course. But very rapidly, they had me doing more courses, more reading. And then they had me join staff in a very, very short period of time, you see, within a matter of weeks. So within a matter of weeks, I'd left my job, literally, not talked to my friend, I'd left my girlfriend. And within a matter of weeks, that's all I was doing. I was just doing Scientology. And then I got further recruited into the inner core of Scientology, which is a paramilitary organization that you never see. The public person doesn't.
I thought this was absolutely fascinating as well. A paramilitary organization within a church, which doesn't really seem to make any sense. And as well, I was doing a bit of reading about this earlier on, correct me if I'm wrong, but the main aim of the Church of Scientology is kind of to infiltrate governments, to infiltrate countries, and to get into decision-making positions. But why did you need, a military presence? What did you plan to take governments over by force, or what was the?
Well, if you have a military organization that's dedicated, if you can imagine a military thing, a military personality is a very focused personality, right? So you're fighting for king and country, or the United States of America fighting all these bad, evil Muslims in Iraq, to save the Christian America. This kind of silly thing. It's a very narrow-minded focus, and it's a very uncritical focus. The soldiers trained in a very narrow way.
Yeah.
Likewise, Scientology trains their people to clear the planet. Now, clear the planet means literally everybody in the planet Earth has to be a Scientologist. Or if they're not a Scientologist, I'll give you an example. There's Hubbard. You can find it on the internet. You guys go ahead and do a search on it, right? The homosexual is rejected by Scientology. Okay, the disabled person is rejected by Scientology, and not just rejected, they are to be disposed of without.
Really, like it's that
they're supposed to be disposed of, if you like,
compassion.
Without compassion, without sorrow,